I wanted to be at Texas State. I chose to be at Texas State. I'm from Texas. That was important to me. I always knew if the right guy got this job, you better watch out.
You better watch out. This is Win Now or Get Bent, episode 135. If you don't already know, I'm Kev Tardello, coming to you on Monday, October 9th, and the Bobcats aren't going undefeated in conference. 1-game win streak in conference. It's over, though. Tough one for the Bobcats. They led for 54 minutes, over 54 minutes of that game on Saturday. Let that lead go late. It's a tough one. It's an 11th loss to Louisiana Raging Cajuns. That was the closest one, though. They hung in there. No moral victories, of course, but, that was still, it was a good game. It was a lot of fun to watch that game. Obviously, the ending isn't what everybody listening to this podcast would have wanted, but that was still a lot of fun. It was good to see them go on the road in the house of a really tough opponent, an opponent that has had their number for a while and controlled the game for a good while. But there is reasons why they let it go, and we'll talk all about that. We're gonna have a full litigation of that game. But before we get there, this episode is brought to you by TGC, the Galindo Collective. TGC LLC at thegalindocollective.com. That's GALINDO, galindocollective.com. A team of professional consultants dedicated to helping others realize their business potential through people, planning, and practice. Their services cover a wide range of areas such as business strategy, marketing, human resources, and financial planning. If you own property or a business and want to maximize its profitability, contact TGC at thegalindocollective.com and follow their social media platforms on Twitter at TGC_LLC and at the Galindo Collective on Facebook and Instagram. Shout out to my guy, Rick Galindo, a true Tech State sicko, Tech State grad himself, sponsoring us all through the season. Thank you so much to them. Hit them up for any of your needs. TheGalindoCollective.com. We are also sponsored by Balcones Roofing and Remodeling, the most experienced F-Wave roofing contractor in Central Texas. F-Wave is a highly impact-resistant lifetime shingle with stunning designer curb appeal. It is the only roofing product on the market with an exclusive hail warranty. Said it a bunch on this pod. That hail warranty, you need it. You need it here in Texas, especially here in Central Texas. We know those hailstorms are going to come. Why not avoid the headache of dealing with your insurance and having guys standing on your roof? Shout out to Carl Larson over there, a converted sicko. He's now with the good guys after being a Gamecock his whole life, rooting for the Bobcats. Hit him up, balconesroofsaustin.com. That's BALCONES, balconesroofsaustin.com. And call them at 512-937-8805. It's 512-937-8805. You can follow them on Twitter at Balcones Roofing. Thanks again to Carl. Our next sponsor, you know who this is, Thaddeus Watkins, San Marcos Edward Jones financial advisor. Does your financial advisor take the time to really listen to you? Is your financial strategy personalized to you and your family? Will your financial advisor be there as your life and financial situation change? When you work with Thaddeus Watkins, your San Marcos Edward Jones financial advisor, he focuses on what's important to you. You'll work together and use an established process to create a personalized financial strategy backed by the advice, tools, and resources to help you reach your goals. Contact Thaddeus Watkins, former Texas State offensive lineman, a Texas State sicko, a Texas State grad. He hung around and he's one of us now. Shout out to Thad Watkins. Contact him at 737-373-8200, 737-373-8200, and online at edwardjones.com/Thaddeus-Watkins, and on Twitter at Big Thad, BIGGTHADD_. Shout out to Thad Watkins. Who better to protect your finances than a former Texas State offensive lineman? Get at my guy Thad. We are also sponsored by Austin Patchmaster. Austin.patchmaster.com Is your ceiling or wall cracked? Need that popcorn ceiling removed? Did you punch a hole in your wall when the Bobcats let go of that lead after leading in that game for 54 minutes? Hit up my guy, Michael Clements, a true Tech State sicko, a Tech State grad. They are servicing the greater Austin area and can also provide referrals to other Patchmaster agents wherever you live in Texas, specifically Houston and Dallas. But if you're in this area, hit up them and let my guy Michael come out and fix some of your walls or ceilings or whatever you got. Contact them at austin.patchmaster.com and at 512-200-3888, 512-200-3888. All right, thank you to our sponsors. Let's get to these Bobcats. All right, a loss for the Bobcats, 34-30 to Louisiana Raging Cajuns. They led the game for most of it. I know I was just looking at a box score, and I kind of just want to go through the scoring with this one. Yeah, very first drive, they elect to take the kick again. Saw that happen last week to great success. Mahdi returned it for a touchdown. He didn't return the opening kick for a touchdown, but he capped off the opening drive with the touchdown. 7-0. Another quick start for the Bobcats. When Louisiana comes out, they score as well on their first drive. And right off the bat, we're not even halfway through the first quarter. Both teams have already scored one drive apiece, and I'm like, okay, this is going to be a good one. And it ended up being a good one. I thought it was going to be more high scoring once I saw that 7-7 right off the bat. Turnovers seemed to really slow down both offenses as the game went on. But then Texas State starts adding to its lead in the first quarter with a Shipley field goal. 1 of 3 for Mason Shipley. I got to pull up his stats if he's having a pretty good season himself. Then in the second quarter, 2-yard touchdown pass from Finley to Cole Wilson. That capped that 9-play drive. Then they made it 20-7 with 6:46 left in the second quarter with another Shipley field goal. Was feeling good about that time, 20-7. But then they come right back. They get a touchdown, 6-play drive, 67 yards, capped it with a touchdown to Peter LeBlanc. The C is silent in Peter LeBlanc. Shout out to the broadcaster. They nailed that one. Touchdown pass from Zion Chris. I'm sure that's a name we all know now. Pretty terrific game for him. 4 touchdowns overall. Came into the game with 8 total touchdowns. He added to that. He is, G.J. Kinney said it going into the game. He is a true dual threat, and he showed that. Young guy too, freshman. So they've got another good one. Going to the third quarter. No, before we get to there was that 4th down play. Bobcats had great success, 4 for 5 on 4th down. We can talk about how did they get the 4th down. They weren't successful on 3rd down. That's more the issue than the 4 for 5 on 4th down. But there was that play right before halftime where Kinney decides to go for it. It's 4th and 4. They're at the 18. You could kick a field goal, add to this lead. Let's see, what was it at the time? That lead, it was 20-14. This would have made it 23-14. You get a little bit more of a cushion. Gets greedy, goes for it, doesn't get it. Going to halftime, 20-14. Now we go to the third quarter. Very similar situation. I'm pretty sure it was also 4th and 4. I'd pull it up, but I'm pretty sure that's right. And I know they're at the 16, and I made a note of where they were on the field there. And in my head, I'm like, okay, well, we saw what he did before halftime. He's going to do that again. He's going to go for it. Take a field goal. 13-play drive, ends on a field goal, 33-yard field goal from Shipley, his 3rd field goal. That'd be his last one of the day. And now let's go back and talk about some of those field goal drives, because you can already tell that Kinney isn't happy about having to even take field goals, because after that game, he's talking about how we need to finish in the red zone. When they only came up short in the red zone with no points one time, and that was when they went for it on 4th down. So at first I was confused thinking about that, but then I realized he's talking about the field goals coming up. For him, that's coming up empty in the red zone, 3 points. We look at it as 9 points. He looks at it as he just lost 12 points. It should be 21 instead of 9. So he already does not like going all those field goals that have happened, but he conceded it in the second half that he needs points, especially in a game like this when it's close. It's going to be close. points are at a premium, you got to take them. Now, it didn't end up being a 3-point difference in the score, so we're not going to hang the loss on that decision before halftime to go for it and not get it and not take any points there. But it is interesting to see he's a young coach. He's 34 years old, and almost watch the growth from from first half to second half where he doesn't go for it. I think we'll see him go for it less, even though he doesn't like those points. We know G.J. Kinney, he wants the score. And honestly, when you see how the game shakes out and you look at him, I'm pretty sure they're 70% on the season on fourth down. It's kind of hard to deny why he would go for it on fourth down and why he wants to finish those drives with touchdowns. Because the way this defense is, you're going to need touchdowns. And we've talked about it before, and I've got plenty more about that coming up. But they need touchdowns. They need to score. Field goals isn't going to do it. So be interesting. Be interesting to see, because he even said after the game that his analytics book, his book of analytics that tells him go for it on fourth, don't go for it here, depending on situation of the game, where you're at on the field, how much time is left, stuff like that, what the score is. And he said the analytics told him both times to go for it on fourth down. And he went against the analytics in the third quarter and went for that field goal. So, it tells you if his gut tells him something, he's going to listen to it. It's not a set system. He's not just following the recipe. So watch him grow, see how he changes that. But then, so after that, 23-14, after that Shipley field goal in the third quarter, Louisiana then caps a drive, another long drive, 7 plays, 82 yards. I say long, but long in yardage. 7 plays is pretty quick for 82 yards. But that makes it 23-21. 2-point game, 3:45 left in the third. Bobcats get a nice cushion. I guess there's some stuff that happens before this isn't at the scores that I'm talking about, but I'm remembering the Finley interception. He throws an interception after, when it's 23-21. Finley throws a pick. Defense stops the Raging Cajuns. They don't capitalize on that interception, don't get any points. And then Finley comes back and leads this touchdown drive. 10 plays, 69 yards, ends it on an 18-yard touchdown pass to Joey Hobart. 132 yards and 8 catches for Joey Hobart. Terrific day for Hobart. But I thought that was big because that pass was really bad. It was, I even asked if it was a miscommunication to Kinney after the game, and he said he thought he was either trying to throw it over the defender or throw it out of bounds. I don't know if he was trying to throw it out of bounds. I think he was trying to get it over that receiver and just shortchanged it. And usually that's not really his forte. Even if he does have a bad throw, it's usually too far, too high. It's usually not in an area where it is interceptable. But that one was right to the defender. If he did have to jump, I can't remember right off the bat. If he had to jump, it wasn't much. I mean, it was right to him. That was a bad throw, and just his second interception of the season. Now, the first interception of the season that we saw we saw Malik Hornsby come out right after. And I even said on this podcast, man, that tells me short leash. There's a short leash there. But then we get to the press conference that week. I asked about it, and he said Finley actually had an issue with his helmet. That's why Hornsby had to get in there, and that's also why they got to delay a game. Because it was a last-second change, throwing Hornsby out there because they were messing with Finley's helmet. So it wasn't a short leash situation, wasn't a warning shot or anything. If that's even what I alluded to that it was, I was incorrect. It was actually a helmet situation there. So we see the interception from Finley. Hornsby doesn't come back in. Finley stays in there. 10-play drive, touchdown. I think that shows a lot of poise after an interception. That was probably his worst throw since he's been at Texas State. That was a pretty bad one. I mean, he had that other interception, and that wasn't a good one either. That was another one where he underestimated how high he needed to let that go to get over the defender. But yeah, that made it 30-21. The touchdown to Joey Hobart. 10-14 left in the game. Felt like a good cushion. Louisiana comes back out. 11-play drive. Takes 4 minutes off the clock. Ends on a Robert Williams touchdown pass from Zion Chris. So now I don't know why I'm misremembering where the blocked punt was. I can't remember if the blocked punt was before that touchdown, their second to last touchdown, or after it, but let's find out. Because that blocked punt, that was, not great. It was the only punt of the day. Yeah, it was right after that touchdown. Yeah, so they score that touchdown. The pass to Robert Williams. Bobcats come out, 4 plays. They have to punt. First punt of the day, Seamus O'Kelly comes out, blocked. Returned 8 yards. Louisiana gets the ball, pretty short field, and they score, take the lead. 34-30 because they failed a 2-point conversion. And, that pretty much seals it. I mean, no, because now, that's right, the Hawkins fumble. I'm looking at that note now. Yeah, because then they come back out, 2-16, 34-30. And they have a pretty good drive. They pick up some quick yards. And all of a sudden, they're running the ball. Nice pass to Sean Shaw. And then it was that 12-yard pass to Hawkins. He's running, first down, looking good. Okay, Bobcats, they're staying in this game. Then he's stripped. Fumble. Another fumble, another turnover. It's first and only fumble that game, but second turnover with that interception from Finley earlier. Uncharacteristic miscue from Hawkins, but that sealed it. That turnover did it. And there's no moral victories. You can't have moral victories. They don't exist. They're not real. I will say my takeaway from this is the Bobcats are almost there. They're almost there. They're not quite there, but they're almost there. They are way closer to there than they were last year. You see the flashes. You see they beat Baylor. You see 77 points. See them come back from 17-0. You see these flashes where it's like, all right, starting to come around. Then they fall to UTSA. They fall here to Louisiana. 2 teams that have had their number for over a decade, and it shows me that they haven't fully gotten rid of the bad stench that has been emanating around this program for years, but they're getting close. They're getting a lot closer. That's why that game on Saturday, that showed me that this is a team with a winning record, and it will end the season with a winning record. I don't think it's a conference champion team. Not yet. That's not a bad thing, especially considering where this program has been, where this team has been, where it just was last year. It's a good thing. It's good progress. It's slow progress. I know everybody wants undefeated, everything going great right off the bat. It's much faster than I anticipated in the offseason. That's for sure. When I was saying 6-6, now I'm looking at it. 6-6 should be a given at this point at 4-2, which I think this team, it could obviously, the ceiling now is 10 because 10 wins is where it could end the season at the regular season. But the ceiling is 10, but I think the floor is around 8 now. Especially looking at their schedule, seeing how some of this stuff shakes out. But this isn't me saying they're not there yet. Isn't a damning accusation against this program or the trajectory that it's at. It's headed in the right direction. Not quite there yet. We're at the halfway point of the season, and that's the assessment that I can take away. It's just they have more positives than flaws, but their flaws are glaring, and they creep up into issues that have presented themselves through the first 6 games. But that being said, it's still a winning team. It's still a really good team. This is a terrific job by G.J. Kinney. After I've said it before, after so many coaches came in and said, "Oh, I need time. It's not going to be successful right off the bat," and he comes in and just throws all that to the side. He's not concerned about it being his first year. And I think the other really cool part about the success in this first half of the season for GJ Kinney is that usually with these first-year coaches, everybody's saying, oh, it's not his guys. He's still playing with such and such as players. He hasn't been here to get a full recruiting class, and all these players are his guys. These are GJ Kinney's guys. I mean, the two big studs on offense, TJ Finley, Ismail Mahdi. I guess it's pronounced Ismail Mahdi, but he goes by Ish. I'm going to start pronouncing that correctly. Those two guys, those are his guys that he brought in. All these big offensive linemen, those are his guys. Joey Hobart with 132 yards, that's his guy. You've got holdovers. You got Ashton Hawkins. You got Brian Holloway. You got some Trenton Scott. You got some guys who were here before that are coming in and doing some things. AJ Edwards. But it's for the most part, it's his guys. And if it's not his guys, it's guys that chose to stay to play in this system on this team. So yeah, it's a loss, but I'd say it's a successful first half of the season. I mean, I don't have to say it. It's in the record, 4-2. I know a lot of people are, not a lot, but there's some of you that are feeling a certain type of way after that loss, after giving it up. Now you really wanted to beat the Raging Cajuns. Those Cajuns, man, ooh, they were getting after it, huh? I tweeted about it a little bit on the broadcast. You could hear him, that F Texas State chant from the student section, and I love it. Some of them they're trying to say like, "Oh, you're mad," when I tweeted about it. I'm not mad. It's college football. It's awesome. It used to be you'd show up to Lafayette and they'd pat you on the back and say thanks for showing up. This time there's some visceral. It's visceral when their animosity for the Bobcats, and that's a good thing. It's what you want. It looked like a fun atmosphere, but yeah, my thoughts on the game. I'll start positive, and then we'll get to the negative because I want to start positive. I think Finley and Mahdi are studs. Hot take. I know that probably shocks a lot of you. Just not really, if you don't understand my dry humor. TJ Finley and Mahdi have been terrific. TJ Finley specifically, I mean, highest passing efficiency of any transfer quarterback in the nation. He almost leads the Sun Belt on that, but Jalen Raynor has him beat by just a little bit. Hadn't played as many games, though. That's the freshman quarterback for Arkansas State. Hobart, Hawkins, Wilson, excellent receivers for the Bobcats. Too many fumbles. A lot of fumbles throughout the season. I didn't make a note of those fumbles, but I know I can find that really fast because I was just looking at something where all of that was. It's been a lot of fumbles. Let's see. 14 fumbles, 8 of them lost. Is that right? Am I looking at the Tech State side? Yeah, 14 fumbles, 8 of them lost. It's a lot through 6 games. That's why only 3 interceptions, but 8 fumbles lost. 14 times where they almost lost them. So that's way, way too many fumbles. I mean, that Hawkins one, it's uncharacteristic, of course. We know Hawkins led the team in receiving last season. And that one where he got stripped running down the field, and even when I go back, you hear things like, oh, how much can you coach fumbling? How much can you coach that? But you go back to the Mahdi, going back to last week, the 89-yard touchdown that never was because Mahdi got stripped. Number 7 for Southern Miss ran all the way down and caught him right before he went into the end zone and pulled that ball out, knocked it out. But if you look at Mahdi, when he's running down the field, he's on the left sideline, running up the sideline with the ball in his right hand, which means when a defender's coming to him, the ball is going to be right there. There's no body blocking. Where if he had it in the left hand, if you're watching on the YouTube, you can see I'm going to switch it. That's how they do it. Over the top, switch it to that left hand. You have the whole body blocking it so that it can't just knock it out like that. Same thing with Hawkins. He caught the ball. Let's see, that was on the right side of the field, and he had the ball in his left hand. Switch it to the sideline that you're at so that if it does get knocked out, it goes out of bounds and you retain possession. Lots of fumbles. And it shouldn't be fumbles. I almost forgive interceptions more than fumbles, as weird as that sounds, because at least it's already a risk putting the ball in the air. The defenders can go get it. When you have that football, you hold that dang ball. Too many fumbles. Need more plays in the middle of the field on offense. I think we're talking offense right now. We'll go to defense because the offense is terrific. The offense is the catalyst of this team, and I want to preface it with that. If there are some things that they could do better, but they're already doing terrific. The defense is another story, and we'll have some notes there. Need more plays in the middle. I mean, the Hobart 18-yard touchdown I'm talking about in the middle. The interception from Finley, that's towards the sideline. And I get it. This offense, they love space. They love playing in space. They don't necessarily go vertical with passes and play setups. They go vertical once they get the ball to their skill guys. They go up the field. They go vertical. But sometimes they like to start out horizontal and use the side of the field. When the middle of the field is open, and Finley is terrific in the middle of the field throwing the ball. I think there's a lot of plays missed in the middle of the field with this offense, and there's a little bit more risk-taking trying to get a ball all the way to the sideline. Now, Finley has a strong enough arm. He's proven he can do it, but sometimes it's going to come up short, and it's going to land right in the hands of a defender like we saw. And now, granted, the middle of the field, yeah, you're throwing into a lot of bodies, a lot of things like that, but you could have play setups where you start outside, come inside. I've been beating this table since I think 3 coaching regimes now. I've been wanting them to really use a tight end properly, maybe just since Spav. Withers did a good job with tight ends, a fine enough job. But use those tight ends up the seam. They did it one time this season. Connor Fox at Baylor. I remember when I saw it, I was like, terrific. I thought I was going to see it more throughout the season, and I haven't seen it since. Maybe that's because Connor Fox has been hurt. It's the Kansas State transfer, big tight end, if you don't remember who that is. He just played the first half against Baylor. I haven't seen him since. But I just feel like there's a lot more left in the middle of this field that they need to get. And I can remember QB Spotlight, if you know that podcast. Shout out to QB Spotlight. My guy lives up in Austin. I know he's an appreciator of the Bobcats throughout the years, and he had Sean Rutherford on recently and everything. But he put up some stats about Finley throwing in the middle of the field, and he's so much better down the middle. I feel like they miss out on some things there. I mentioned how terrific Mahdi was. I didn't even really go through the stats, did I, with Mahdi? Let's jump back into the game with some of these stats specifically for Ishmael Mahdi, because it was, he had 188 yards. I'm trying to remember how many carries, because it was a lot. 34 carries, 188 yards gained and a touchdown. It's a lot of carries. 47 carries to 40 passes for this team. It's a little bit uncharacteristic. Usually it's balanced, leaning more towards passing. This time it's heavier on the run, specifically to one guy. 34 attempts for Mahdi. I don't want to say broke. He hurt his wrist, and they had to wrap it up, and then they put a brace on it, and he came back in the game. And I should honestly, I should apologize to Mahdi for saying he's a guy who I wouldn't give more than 20 carries. Well, that was 34. That's a lot more than 20. And he did a pretty good job with it. That being said, I don't want to see him anywhere near 34 carries in a game again. Because it's like chopping a tree. It's not the first chop or the second chop. It's like the 50th, 60th, 70th chop that knocks it down. It's why it's not the first hit or second hit. It's the accumulation of all these hits throughout the season that's eventually going to break down the running back. So I don't want to see him have 34 carries again. He's a terrific player. I love when he touches the ball 34 times in a game. But I don't think that's inducive for a long, healthy season for somebody who is as important to this offense as he is. But that being said, 34 carries to him and a grand total of 13 carries for everybody else. Denario Davenport, 8 carries, Jeter, 4, Hornsby, 1. that's not enough. And I guarantee you they know it's not enough because Kenny and these guys, they came in saying 4 to 5 running, or I think it's 5 to 7 running backs is what he wants to play in a game. It's the Gus Malzahn way. That's the way he did it. And they've focused really on one with Mahdi. I don't know what's going on with Calvin Hill. Still been waiting for him to get more carries. It's not an injury. He's still there. Denario Davenport's been their second guy, and then it's Jeter. They only use Jeter in goal line situations. Saw Demarius Good have a really good game. Then when you talk to Kenny about that game for Good, Hornsby was in the game. It was that second half against Jackson State where Hornsby's in the game, and apparently Hornsby being in the game really opens up the running game. Everyone's focused on stopping Hornsby, hands it off, and that guy's able to get some yards. So his performance may have been inflated by that. But that being said, more running backs, more receivers need to step up as well. I mean, I mentioned those three: Wilson, Hobart, Hawkins. They've been the three guys all season that have been pretty solid, but we don't see much from anybody else. We saw Drew Donnelly start out getting some stuff at the beginning. Haven't seen much from him. We saw a little bit of that jet sweep on that 2-point conversion last week, but didn't see much this week. Langston Anderson, Julian Ortega-Jones. There's other receivers that we're not really seeing. Bo Corrales, we know he's been injured. So it's been interesting because this is an offense that last year at Incarnate Word and even earlier this season, they spread the ball a lot. They throw the ball to a lot of receivers and did not do that this game. I mean, technically only 3 receivers caught a ball. Sean Shaw had 3 catches for 21 yards, but they moved him to tight end, even though in some of those sets he was out wide like a receiver because he came in as a receiver, 6'6" receiver. So more opportunities for other running backs and receivers. That's something that I think they could do. And using Hornsby more than a decoy. They just used him as a decoy this last game, and maybe that was just because they'd been using him not as a decoy, as the weapon, the 3 games prior. So they're like, okay, we'll trick him a little bit on this one. But yeah, I mean, you got Hornsby. Use that guy as a weapon. All right, let's talk defense, everybody. The defense, it is what it is. I've been saying it since the jump of this season. It's a bend don't break defense, and I saw some of you say, I don't want to hear that anymore. I don't want to hear that about this defense. They need to be better, but it is what it is, and that was never a compliment. When I was saying it's a bend don't break defense, a feast or famine defense. You know, you hear the feast part when I say you don't hear the famine part. And I've said it from the jump. They need 35 points. This defense needs 35 points from its offense to be successful and to have a win. It needs 35. I mean, shoot, they gave up 34 this week and got the loss because they didn't get 35 from their offense. Even going through their season, when have they? I guess 20 points against UTSA, but that was a loss. Everything else has been over 20 points. What is 24 from Nevada, 31 from Baylor, 36 from Southern Miss. The one time they go over 35, they actually won that game. This defense, they're not going to shut anybody out. They're not going to get a ton of stops. They're going to get a few series throughout the game that they're going to get a stop, or they're going to get a turnover. They're going to get something that goes their way to ensure that the other team isn't going to score on every drive. But the offense has to score on just about every drive for this to be effective. Not ideal. It's never been a compliment. I think some of you confused that with some of your responses on Twitter on Saturday. It is what it is. It's very aggressive defense. They're going to go after the quarterback. They're going to try and get those sacks. They're going to try and get those TFLs. But if they don't get there, yards are going to be gained and points are going to be scored. That's how it goes with this defense. When it's man coverage, and with the DBs, it's freestyle with the defensive line. It's not a ton of discipline. It's a ton of you got to execute, make some plays, do some stuff, but it's not going to work every single time. The offense has to have a great day every day. And when I say it at the top, when I'm like, this is a winning team, this is a team that has a winning record, I don't think it's a conference champion. They can prove me wrong. I'd love to be proven wrong. Please prove me wrong. I'll play this. I'll clip this and play it for when you win the conference championship. But when you have a defense that's like that, defense wins championships. It's a cliche. I know we've all heard it a million times. Cliche for a reason. It's true. So, fun players on this defense. A lot of fun players. But needs a lot from the offense. So this is my thoughts on that game. I'm gonna tell you this: I haven't really looked into ULM. I don't have a preview. I don't even know what the odds are in that game. Bobcats are winning. Bobcats will win this week. Feeling good about it. They're back home. Bye week after that. Great time for a bye week. I think they need some guys to heal up and come back. I'm thinking of Jordan Revels, Connor Fox, Bo Corrales. Some of these guys really want to see them get in the mix. But they're going to get a win this week. Feeling good about that. I still feel really good about this team, even with my criticisms of the defense and some of the things that are lacking on offense. Because if I have another positive, what was the penalties? They didn't have a lot of penalties. I meant to check that out. Penalties this game. Wasn't more than 3 or 5, somewhere around there. 3 penalties, 40 yards. Yeah, not bad. Better than the 3 games prior. There were some penalties where the refs thought about calling it. There was a targeting they took away from Holloway, which was good. I'm glad they took that one away. But much better penalty-wise this week. So I had a question during the mailbag from my guy Logan. Shout out to Logan. How you doing, buddy? About draftable prospects for this team. So I made a list. I wanted to come back and circle to that and talk about that. Because there's not a ton of like seniors on this team. So draftable guys for this year. I made draftable now and draftable later. And you're not gonna like the first name on this list, but we're gonna talk about it. We'll work it out. It's TJ Finley on the top of this list. Now I know redshirt sophomore. He's spent 3 years in college. This is his 4th year. He has a college degree. He is engaged. Don't know if he's married yet. He's at least engaged. His twins coming in November. So he's a full-fledged adult. And he's having a terrific season. He's having a great season. 12 touchdowns, 2 interceptions through 6 games. I think he's dispelled a lot of the doubts against him. As far as one of the biggest ones was the guy has a turnover machine. You know, we saw the pick last week, but they've been few and far in between. I think he has a fumble or 2 this year as well. He's played terrific. He's 6'7", 255 pounds. So there's no questions about his height. He's got a really strong arm. I remember looking at it in fall camp and being like, it felt like it was deceiving my eyes, seeing how I've never seen an arm that strong here at Texas State. That's why all fall camp and all those pods, I was like, he's got the strongest arm. This is the guy. He's got the intangibles. If he's missing anything, he's not a very fast athlete. He's nowhere near being a dual threat. Even when it comes to being in the pocket, sometimes he gets quicksand feet when the pocket's getting muddied up. He's not great at getting away from those guys. Like if you put him on a bootleg play, when he can revs up the engine a little. He's a big guy. It takes a lot to get that momentum going. And when he has that doing a bootlegging, he can give it a nice toss on the run or run with the ball himself. We've seen him even score on that at that Baylor game, that 16-yard score. I think he's very much an NFL prospect. I don't know what they're looking at as far as draft-wise with TJ Finley, especially with such a small window of games here at Texas State. Got to remember, he came from two SEC programs, so you would imagine that would hold some equity with these guys. But there's TJ Finley. He could enter the draft this year, and if, like I said, he's got a family on the way and everything, he may be thinking money. I don't know exactly what his NIL situation is here, but if the pro prospects outweigh those prospects, he might be gone after this year. It could be one and done for Finley. Because I'll tell you this, Finley, we're going to see him on a team, an NFL team. Like, that's an NFL quarterback when I look at him. I look at, I'm a Raiders fan. I'd take him over any of the quarterbacks on the Raiders right now. And I mean it. I'm dead serious. I've seen enough of TJ Finley. I sit at his press conferences. I hear him talk. I see how he works at practice, see how he is around his team. He's a leader. He's got a strong arm. He has all the intangibles, everything except, a 4.5 40 maybe. But everything else I'm extremely impressed with. I could see him, and I'm not an NFL scout, and maybe I'm biased because this is my beat, but I look at that and I'm like, that's a 3rd round pick, 4th round pick. Why wouldn't you put a flyer out on that? I mean, it's a pretty terrific player. So we'll see. It could be a one and done. And I'll say this, I can't just throw out Finley and then move on. I can't throw that out about Finley possibly being gone for this year and move on to the next name on the draftable list. Because if that were to happen, Malik Hornsby's still here. PJ Hatter. Saw PJ Hatter. At the very end of that Jackson State game, that touchdown that never was for him, he's a terrific player. From Kenny saying Hatter might be faster than Hornsby. So they have guys waiting in the wings. So it's not a true, of course it'd be a detriment if he left, but it's a recoverable, they can recover. And I think they saw that and planned for it. That's why you have all these quarterbacks on roster. And who knows, maybe that's something they knew and just didn't say publicly, that this could be Finley come in, show out, maybe you go pro, then it's Hornsby's turn. Maybe that's why they have such a good relationship. No one's really mad at the other one. Two big-time quarterbacks transfer in, and only one of them gets the bulk of the starts, and they've seemed to handle it really well. So yeah, something to think about, because when that question was posed to me in the mailbag, that's the first name that pops up. I look at TJ Finley and I'm like, that's the most NFL ready guy on the field, in my opinion. But Caleb Johnson, I also have him up there, center for the Bobcats, Incarnate Word transfer, the big show, big guy, 6'6", 330 pounds. He's got that size, shown the versatility to play guard, center. He's got that body at 6'6", 330. You can put him at tackle. That versatility goes a long way. We've seen it with Aaron Brewer. Aaron Brewer started at every position on the offensive line while he was at Texas State. And now he's a captain on the Tennessee Titans. So that versatility, that holds a lot of weight with these NFL scouts. I'll tell you what else holds a lot of weight is size. Caleb Johnson has that, but so does Bray Walker. He's been a guard, Oklahoma transfer. It really, and I'll be honest, that he's number 3 on this list of draftables because of his size, 6'7", 355. But you got to imagine scouts, teams look at that and go, can build on that. We can train that up. We can figure that out. He's got size. So two guys that got a ton of size. Now it's 3 guys. Those are the 3 that I'm like, okay, I could really see those guys on NFL rosters. I don't know about their draftability. We haven't seen a player here drafted at Texas State since 2015. There's 2, Craig Mager in the 3rd round, David Mayo in the 5th round. Haven't seen a quarterback here drafted since Spurgeon Wynn. What was that? 2000 before Tom Brady. How about that one? I think he was the 6 quarterbacks in that draft. He was the 5th one. Some other guys on this list that I think they're pro prospects. I don't necessarily think they're going to be drafted, but I have them here as pro prospects. Chance Main. I think he's the one thing that keeps me from saying draft is size. He's not the biggest guy, but he's got a hell of a motor. He's got he's always making plays. It feels like when he goes in there, even when he's not starting in those games. I like Chance Main a lot. Sam Latham, the opposite of Chance Main, he does have that size, 6'7". I haven't seen as much as I've seen from Chance Main, but Latham just had a sack last week. Latham is a pretty good, so 2 defensive ends I think could have a shot. Both are seniors, Latham and Chance Main. Caleb Ford DeMint at corner. I think he could get a shot. Really good corner over there. And Ashton Hawkins. Now he's a junior. See if he comes back. I think he should come back. But eligible. So I'm going to throw him out there. It's a terrific receiver. Saw him had a great catch last week, that 41-yarder. Another circus catch from Ashton Hawkins. He's a terrific player. Now for down the road, not this season, Ismail Mahdi, Got to put him on there. I was even saying just last week that I don't see him as an every down back, and then he goes and gets 34 carries right after I say that. I'm like, okay, Marty, I see your game. I see your game out there. He's a terrific player. I mean, even when you listen to the press conference from Louisiana's coach, I always mess up his name, Michael Desmarais. I'm pretty sure I said that right. He says he's a complete back from everything, passing the ball in between the tackles, running outside the edge, returning kicks. He can do everything. He's a complete back. But just a sophomore. So not ready yet. Nash Jones would have been on the first list of now had he not gotten hurt. Still think that guy's going to be an NFL player. Left tackle. We didn't see him for very long this season, but he's a terrific player. Team captain, everything. Malik Hornsby, that speed. Don't know if it's going to be at quarterback or slot receiver or where at, but thought it was interesting. We got to talk to TJ Finley last week at the press conference. Asked him about Hornsby, lots of rave reviews, and then he kind of ended it with, I wish he'd get in there at slot receiver maybe towards the end of the season. Maybe so. Because even talking about Hornsby, I was talking about Finley potentially going after this season. Hornsby is a junior, so next year he'd be a senior because that was game 4 that he played in. He got in there, took some snaps, and run the ball. He handed it off. But that was game 4 this last week. I don't think he can get that red shirt now. Maybe it's one more game he can't get the red shirt, but I think that's done. But I also don't think Hornsby wants to wait around another year. I think he knows he's a pro prospect, whether at quarterback or another position. Joshua Eaton, I like his attitude. I like what he does. I like his length. I think he could be a pro corner. Dorian Strawn, another offensive lineman. He's a sophomore, but he's doing some terrific things. He's a real bully on that line. I like watching him shove guys around. Same with Jameto Abibo. I want to make sure I keep getting that right from here on out. No soft J there. Jameto Abibo. Big guy. Both of them. Dorian Strawn and Jameto, big guys. Ben Bell, of course. Ben Bell. I think he's going to work I think he would be a starter if Maine and Latham weren't seniors. Because I've liked what I've seen from Ben Bell more than some of these other guys. Trenton Scott, young guy at left tackle. Shout out Trenton Scott. Big guy, bigger than we realized, 6'6", 310. Finally getting some shine there at left tackle. And Torrey Spears, he would have been in the draft now. And I'll even admit it's going to be really hard for Torrey Spears to make it to the pro level for his age, his injury-prone history, and he's been playing for a long time. And it's unfortunate, but the scouts do. Once a player hits over 24, a lot of scouts will just completely write a player off. I know I specifically learned this with Levi Bell at his pro day, where he had one more year of eligibility. Levi Bell could be playing right now for the Bobcats. He wanted to, really liked Kenny and these coaches and everything, but he would have gotten over that 24. I guess it's a number that's somewhat known, that he would have gotten over that 24 number, 24 years old, and his chances would have been significantly reduced. And I know Torrey Spears is getting close to that. But I hope not. I really like Torrey Spears, 6'4" safety. You just don't see that a whole lot. I know he's having a baby soon. Daughter. Shout out to Torrey Spears. Sorry if that was kind of negative, and then I give you a shout out, but I still believe in you, Torrey. Don't let some dude on a podcast tell you what you can and can't do. All right, that'll do it. Let's wrap that up. In summation, great first half of the season. Sputtered at the end, that last game with the Louisiana one after leading so much, but still believe in this team. It has flaws, but it's more fun than the flaws. Check out our Patreon, patreon.com/winnnoworgetbent. Our merch site, WNOGB.com. Cool stuff, new stuff coming there this week. Watch out for that. If you're on our YouTube channel, Win Now or Get Bent, please subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff. Share it with your friends. If you're on Facebook, share it on Facebook. I don't get on Facebook enough. I really should. I got to really reach out to all the socials, the TikTok, all of that. I know I got to expand it. See, it's how we grow. But I like where we're at. We got a good crowd here. But check us out. YouTube channel, Win Now or Get Bent. Twitter at Win Now or Get Bent. Instagram at WNOGB. Thank you to TGC, Balcones Roofing and Remodeling, Thaddeus Watkins, Edward Jones Financial Advisor, and Austin Patchmaster for believing in us, sponsoring us, and hanging with us and helping us grow. Thank you to Zach Webb, the wizard, my guy over there, always working hard. And thank you to you sickos for sticking with us, hanging with us, growing with us, dealing with me reading all these new ads and all the increased stuff that's happened this season. It's been a fun first half of the season, not just on the field for the Bobcats, but off it, doing everything with the pod and watching it grow and seeing the things we can do and feeling the anxiety of wanting to do more, feeling like we're not doing enough because we're not doing enough and we want to do more. We are going to grow more. So, and that's none of it is possible without you. All of this growth, everything that we're doing, everything that we're trying, it's because you guys keep tuning in, supporting us, liking the pod, subscribing, commenting, all that good stuff. So thank you so much for your continued support here. Looking forward to this second half. Postseason on the horizon for the Bobcats. We haven't seen it in a very long time. Gosh, a postseason? Probably 2005, right? When they made the playoffs. Wow. No bowl games. Hadn't had one of those. We'll see. We'll see if they can finish the deed. We'll be there together, those sickos. All right, everybody. Thanks again for tuning in. Win now or get bent.